Welcome back to the show. I felt so weird not having this last week. I hope you missed me as much as I missed you. So this week I'm getting open and real about working through childhood trauma and relearning how to be. So it all started with a dream and my guides presenting me with a choice and me not knowing what I was getting into. I said yes. So cue in the warrior mode, cue in the tears, cue in working in with your inner child. And I've learned that my inner child, she hasn't trusted me for a really long time. So I talk about navigating myself through that, and through these breakdowns and breakthroughs, what's helped me walk towards the other side, because I think I'm still in the depths of it. So some of that being the plant medicine of hapé, some of that also being learning how to sit with my emotions and asking them what they really need. And then at the end, I talk about how just being in nature has helped me so much. And I talk about the story of how Mother Nature, Pachamama, came to be according to my guides. And it's a beautiful story. It's a bit of a tearjerker. So while I don't talk about what my childhood trauma is and about those details of that, I talk about how it's affected me and how I'm working through it. So if you are kind of in this same little portal as I am, I really think this is the podcast for you. But that being said, please use your discretion on what sort of place you're in right now. Sometimes things come up and we're not ready for it. And I want you to know that you are not alone. If things come up, reach out to a friend, reach out to your guides, your ancestors, your higher self, reach out to me. We are all here for each other. We're not meant to do this alone. So I do recommend that you are in a grounded, surrendered place as you listen to this podcast. And I do provide us some grounding in the very beginning. And also with plant medicine, I'm sharing my experience, what's helped me. I am not recommending that plant medicine is for everyone, that it's necessarily for you. So again, with that, please use your own discretion. All right, and without further ado, let's dive into this portal of the whispers of your inner child and relearning how to be.
You are listening to the School of Whispers podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie, and this is my space to get real, open, and weird about my life experiences as a psychic, medium, energy healer, and student of Chinese medicine. On the show, I'll be sharing my healing journey and the concepts I've learned along the way, and I'll be having guests on talking about the same sort of thing. I am so happy you're here, and I hope this show leaves you feeling inspired and empowered to learn how to listen to the whispers of your own body and spirit. Let's get into the show.
All right, everyone, welcome back, or welcome if this is your first time here. I've been feeling really, really ungrounded lately, and I finally feel like I have my 2 feet on the ground, and it feels like they're actually connecting with the ground. And I know a lot of that is thanks to this amazing trip I just went on with my best friend, Casey. And I want to take a moment and kind of bring you down here with me. Some of the topics I'm going to cover today are big, difficult ones, and the more grounded down and in resonance we can be together, I think the better this message can come across. So wherever you are, if you can close your eyes, go ahead and do that. If you're feeling called to bring your hand anywhere in your body, whether it's your belly, that's where mine is, maybe your heart, your throat, your forehead, and closing eyes. If you can, take a deep belly breath in. Hold your breath at the top. Open the mouth and sigh it out. On the next inhale, I want you to bring a little bit of noise into it. So inhaling in. Hold. Sigh it out. One more like that at your own pace. If you can, keep your eyes closed for a moment. Bring all your awareness to the very base of your spine. You can sit softly here. You don't have to sit too tall. Letting your inner awareness be guided by a clockwise direction. And notice if this awareness of yours has a color, a texture, a certain quality which you can tune in to. Inner awareness starts to travel up your spine, right to the base of your skull. Feel it wrap around to the front of your throat. Big inhale. As you exhale, awareness glides back down to the base of your spine. Let it start to melt down your thighs, your knees, shins, the heels of your feet, the soles of your feet. Feel that heavy magnetic energy pulling you down to the earth. You can stay right here, eyes closed, hands on your body for the rest of my talking. Or you can gently reintroduce yourself back into the world of this dimension. So, lots been happening. I'm trying to figure out where I want to begin. Well, I called in for a guide, as I usually do before starting a podcast. And the guide who came in was the snake. And leaning further into that, the snake told me that he teaches in subtle ways. He doesn't expend extra energy. He doesn't have to speak. He doesn't have any arms to flail around to get his message across. And I learned yesterday that snakes sleep for up to 16 hours. And it makes total sense why my snake, Mr. Fulang Chang, is when he needs something, he's always telling me through dreams, whether he's escaped his tank or he's hungry or he wants a new clean look in his tank. It always happens in my dreams. So it makes sense. It's not like a puppy who scratches your leg because, she's hungry or wants to go outside. The language of the snake is the language of less is more, in a way. So I'm going to start with something that happened when I got back from Italy. Kind of a stream of events that have led me to where I am now. So when I returned back to Orlando from Italy, I had to create a boundary with a family member and ask them to not speak to me for a while and to give me space. And I'm sure it was very triggering for this family member. It's been very triggering for me because I feel a sense of responsibility towards my family members to to help them heal, to use my gifts and my knowledge to heal them. And that's just not... it doesn't do me any good. It doesn't do them any good. What I was talking to Bonnie early this morning, and one thing she said, I love it. She said, when you spit down truths to people, sometimes it's the mirror that they're not ready for. And I know I said this in the last podcast about having herpes, how it's the failures that have been the greatest lessons for me. And I see this in my readings. You can tell someone something, and even if you're being as clear as you think you're being, they're going to take it the way that they want to take it. Most of us, we need to experience things in order to feel ready to make a real change. So I saw all the ways in which I was contributing to a toxic relationship, to a toxic cycle. And I had a lot of healing to do from that. And unfortunately, with loved ones, you don't want to ask them to leave you alone. I know I hate the idea of it, but it also feels so good. It feels so good to have the space to look back, because this family member and I have a lot of history. So it feels so good to have the space to look back at all the conflicts, the dramas, all the mirrors that we've been for each other throughout my life, and to bit by bit, one by one, go through that journey again. It's also really difficult. But yeah, it's hard to do that when you're continuously finding yourself in more conflicts and in the same cycle. Sometimes to break a cycle, you have to step away. And something that I realized while going back, especially like into like kind of like my young, like preteen years, like between the ages of like 11 and 14 or 15, I've realized that a lot of things that have happened between me and this family member, a sense of betrayal, feeling humiliated, feeling disrespected, I never really spoke up. It wasn't until I couldn't take it anymore and I either shut down, which I stopped. Like I don't know, I might not get this one right, but I know in the Robert Frost poem, he said, I'd rather die from fire than from ice, rather like from the flames of passion than freezing to death. And I tend to become ice. I tend to freeze people out. And so I've done that before, and so many things. But the big thing is I realized I didn't speak up for myself. I didn't know how to speak up for myself. And so when I tried to go back to little Stephanie in those times, little Stephanie wanted nothing to do with me. Little Stephanie didn't trust me. She didn't want my help because I wasn't able to help myself in the past. So I felt, and trust has been a really big theme for me since July. But it was more towards trusting the universe and trusting the path that universe lays ahead for me, like the podcast topics and the herpes and sharing all of this stuff so openly and freely. But now I've realized, and I guess it makes sense because we're mirrors of the universe and blah, 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 I don't trust myself. And that's been really hard to reconcile with because it's showing me all the areas in my life in which I act out of distrust. And it's very sad and it's very disappointing that I've lived so much of my life this way. And so this was in July. Wow, it was only a month ago. It feels like months and months have passed since then. Oh, goodness. Okay. And shortly, a few days after I had to set that boundary, I had a dream. And in this dream, there was a woman and she kind of dressed bohemian. And I remember she had this really strong feminine energy. And she was working on my right shoulder. I was laying on my side and she was working just under my shoulder blade. And as she started digging deep into that area, I felt in my dream, I felt a stabbing sharp pain in between my shoulder blades come in. And I remember flinching and going, oh my, what was that? And she goes, okay, there's something here. And listen, I can release it for you, but you're going to first need to give me explicit permission. And you're also need to be aware that this is going to open up a lot for you, a lot of portals, and you're going to cry a lot. You're going to cry all the time. And as she's explaining this to me, the family member who I had to cut out for now was in my dream, and they were talking over this woman, and Casey, my best friend, she was in the dream too. And I remember looking at Casey thinking, this woman is trying to help me, and kind of making big eyes at her like, why is my family member being so rude and talking over her? And then I woke up and then I sat down at my altar, which is not even 2 feet away from my bed. And I started to do my breath work, and this breath work triggered a stabbing. And I forgot it. I don't know if I just said this, but I forgot about the dream completely. And I didn't remember it until while I was doing my breath work, I felt this stabbing between my shoulder blades, and it made me feel like I wanted to cry. And then I remembered, and I go, oh, okay. All right, it's all coming back to me. Okay, guides, ancestors, higher self, message received, full permission. Let's do this. I don't know what this is and what this is going to bring, but I'm saying yes. I want this out of me. And then from that point, just other little things started coming through. Growing up, I've had an issue with crying because it's never something I felt fully safe doing around certain family members. I felt like I wasn't allowed to be the one losing it. Or I thought, like, if I cry, this means I've hit rock bottom and I'm losing it. And I remember, like, when I was little, I used to look in the mirror as I was crying and thinking, like, you are pathetic. You have nowhere to go from here, which obviously isn't the case at all. Crying is absolutely incredible. But because of that, I've had a hard time letting myself cry alone. And with others, I notice that frustration really brings up tears. But sadness, I struggle when I feel sad to just cry. And so a couple weeks or maybe a week later, I felt like a couple weeks later, but maybe it was just a week later, I had this other dream. This same woman came in, and I had a lot more of an idea of who she was. She actually looked like a healer who my friend Lauren works with a lot. And this healer she does Kundalini work, she does Reiki, she does all this healing and belly dancing. She embodies that feminine, that Kundalini energy. And so I'm laying on my back with my knees bent, and she hands me a cup of ayahuasca. She says, "Are you ready, Steph? Are you ready for me to guide you?" And I kind of look at her and trying to recognize her, and I ignore her, and I drink the cup, and I don't really feel anything. And I said, "Look," she puts her hands on my knees and kind of leans in towards my face and says, "Okay, you drank the cup. Are you ready? I'm going to guide you now." And I was like, "Hold on. No. I don't know you. I don't know you. I don't trust you. I don't need you. I can guide myself through this journey. Thank you very much." And she says, "Oh, Steph, I'm so sorry. That's not what you agreed to. You need to drink the medicine. You need to allow me to guide you. You need to surrender." And I was like, "No, yeah, I totally get the surrender. But listen, I don't know you. So she goes, okay. How about you have another cup?" So I have another cup of ayahuasca, and I'm walking around. I'm starting to feel a little bit of that grooviness from the medicine. And she says, "Okay, are you ready now?" And I said, "No, again, please respect my decision. I don't trust you, and I will guide myself." She goes, "Again, that's not what you agreed to. I really need you to just give me permission so we can work through this together. How about you have another cup?" So I have another cup of ayahuasca. And in my dream, I remember getting up, going to the bathroom, and just unleashing spicy hell from my bowels and coming out of it feeling so good. And in hindsight, thank God I didn't shit the bed, because I've had dreams in the past. I remember the first time I watched Titanic when I was 10. I think that was the last time I wet the bed, maybe 9 or 10. And yeah, I was 10. And I had a dream that I was on the door with, and Jack was, pushing me up on the door, but the door was waterlogged and started drowning, and I was wet. And then next thing I know, I wake up in my own piss. So thank God that didn't happen. But yeah, I remember feeling so much lighter and sitting back on my mat and saying, "Okay, I agreed to this. Let's do it." And then within that dream, I had all these other dreams of all these life scenarios. And then I just had to show up in certain ways within these scenarios. So I wake up with that dream, and I didn't really have any correlation towards the first one. But I did wake up with some excitement because I knew there were so many symbols and so many messages in that dream. And I was pretty stoked that I was able to surrender and trust. And I'm still doing this work. And it's exhausting, and I know that there's something bigger coming. And I start to feel fear within me, which isn't very characteristic of me. Like, I mean, it's normal to feel fear, but usually I meet fear with courage. And I know that that's just my natural response. But this time, this fear felt like it's been feeling like this. I'm a gazelle through the savannah running for my life. Absolute deep entrenched fear. And I feel it in my solar plexus. So I recently said yes to the call to do a combo bufo ceremony later this year. So all of this is tying in, and none of it's been lost on me, especially in hindsight. And when I've been doing my research, listening to podcasts about bufo and documentaries, and trying to really lean into the energy that is the frog medicine, I feel terror. The only thing that I've been able to do when I've felt it is this is a great practice that my guides have given me, is so I allow the human interaction or the memory or whatever to come in, and I allow that emotion to come in as well without any resistance. And then I separate. I imagine it's one big ball, and then two hands come and pull that ball apart so I can separate the memory from the emotion. And then I allow the emotion to bubble up and up and up inside of me until I freak out, I cry, I breathe, I feel all of it so that I have nothing left to give it. And so that's what I've been doing, but I'm surprised how it's just still there. It's still there. So flash forward to, so right now today's Monday, August 30th. So not this past Sunday, but which was my birthday? Yeah, which was my birthday. So not that Sunday, but the Sunday before, I'm sitting on the couch reading this book called, I think it's How to Survive When Your Mind's Trying to Kill You. It's a book on suicide. And I'm not suicidal myself, but I have a lot of people coming to me who tend to have these thoughts, and I've had family members who've had these thoughts. So it's something I just always wanted to understand better. So I'm reading this book, and the author is talking about her background, and without getting into it, because I mean, I know that this topic may be triggering enough for people, but the specific abuse that she went through, it really, really triggered me because it was something very similar to what I've experienced. And she was talking about the navigating the aftermath of the abuse and the confusion and the self-doubt that happens throughout her adult life. And it was really validating to read that. I remember having to stop in my tracks and just digest all of that. But then as I continued to read, I felt the terror start to climb from my belly up to my throat. And I'm starting to feel really funky. And so I closed the book and I sat back on the couch and I started to meditate. And it was a really great meditation because it was one of those meditations where you fall in and out of sleep. Well, not exactly sleep, but it's in and out of conscious awareness. And for anyone who's listening who's kind of shits on themselves saying, oh, I'm so bad at meditation and I end up falling asleep, that's okay. That's not being bad at meditation at all. That's you shutting off your nervous system and your human brain to a level so deep that you can just let go and fall asleep. And I believe that meditation brings us what we need. So if your body is needing to process something and the best way for your brain to create any sort of neurological connection is to allow yourself to sleep. And so that's what happened to me. And then I felt like somebody just, and it here and there in my meditation, I feel myself almost being shaken by someone. And so my eyes still stay closed, but I become more conscious of the room around me. And then I let go of that awareness. And at the very end, I felt like somebody was shaking me saying, wake the fuck up. And I wake up in a panic and I feel this fluttering, this pattering at my throat. And I'm not really aware of what it's just, I'm like, oh great, here's this fucking terror again. And so I walk downstairs and Mana, my husband's hanging out by the pool, and he sees my face and he's like, are you okay? And I say, I don't know. I don't know. I read this book and I think it triggered something within me. And this memory of abuse, and speaking in the way of the snake, again, I'm not going to give you details on it because this isn't about the abuse itself. But this memory of abuse has always been in the back of my head, and it really didn't come into full awareness. I didn't become aware that, oh shit, this was not good. This should not have happened. It not only came into my awareness when 2021 in January, and that was kind of like my big psychic awakening, because with that came in all these visions and all this deeper connection with source and with passed on souls, with a lot of boundaries. And it was really great. And I was in therapy at the time, and I was working a lot with her on it because it fucked me up. Remembering fucked me up. But I was also so grateful. And I had no face to my abuser. I couldn't remember who it was. And I was just like, but it doesn't matter because I have this deep connection now. I've allowed myself to receive gifts and messages from the other side, and I can help others. This is what I've always wanted to do. I can help people. And I think the last time this memory really tormented me, because it did torment, while I was excited and a little distracted, I was also tormented by the physiological response, as well as little intrusive memories coming back in here and there. So the last time this memory has tormented me was in a therapy session while doing EMDR, which is a form of, I think maybe it's cognitive behavioral psychology, but I'm not entirely sure. But it's about bringing memories that get trapped in your lower brain, your brainstem, and moving it through your midbrain and up to your forebrain, which is the area of your higher function. You could think of it also as your id, your animal mind, moving to your ego, your human mind, to your superego, your consciousness, so that these memories no longer emotionally trigger you so much. And a great way that Bonnie put it is, so you're no longer time traveling back, because we're time travelers, believe it or not. We are constantly moving back and forth through different phases in our life, and trauma has this incredible ability to keep us trapped in time. So when we face a situation that's very similar to a trauma that occurred, especially in the past, we are transported. We become that age, that person, that version of us. And I wasn't even doing EMDR towards that. I was doing it towards a memory of abandonment, or a memory with my dad that triggered this belief of that I'm abandoned. And then instead that memory came in, and I was freaked out. I was like, no, too much, not ready. And we shut it down, and she had to calm me down. And I've since then, I've done 2 ayahuasca ceremonies. I've done a lot of work, but it never came back and tormented me in the way that it did until last Sunday. And so I go back upstairs and I break down. I feel all these icky feelings in my body, all this panic. The memories are starting to drop in again, and something that I thought was behind me, it felt like, here I am again at this age. Here I am again in 2021, feeling all of this horrific trauma coming in. And so I sit at my altar and I sob. I sob and I sob and I sob. And I'm hugging myself. I'm squeezing myself. I'm calming. I look at a photo on my altar that I believe is me at that age. And it's funny because my my trauma response at that age, and then it's carried with me till now, is picking. I pick my skin because it helps get me distracted, because I'm upset about this one thing. If I can pick myself, then I just get upset with myself that I'm picking. So I'm hugging myself and I feel my nails starting to dig into my skin. And I'm like, stop it, little stuff, stay here. Do not numb, do not run, be here. And I called in my ancestors, my guides, my higher self, and I could barely feel them. And it gives me chills saying that, because I hope that never happens again, because I felt so abandoned. I tried to think of everyone and anyone who I love, and I couldn't bring in anyone. I felt so alone. And so I eventually calmed myself down, and I did some hapé, which I've talked about a few times in the podcast. It's ceremonial tobacco snuff. So it's tobacco that's well, sometimes, not all the time, but it's not the hybridized tobacco that we know of with those big thick leaves. It's that purest tobacco that was grown before colonization came around to America and worked on extracting as much as they can out of the plant. The one I bought was grown on an heirloom farm. So I did my hapé ceremony, or rapé, it's called that as well. I did I say hapé because I like it sounds like happy hapé. Anyways, so I do it, and then it what I love about it is it relaxes my body. And by the way, the old caveat here, this is a plant medicine that works for me. It is something you don't want to mess with. You don't want to mix it with alcohol. You don't want to do it if you're feeling ungrounded. I always have to ground and calm myself down before I do it, because it's an uplifter. It raises your vibration. It expands your consciousness. It also decongests your body and makes you have to poop. So that's great too. It's a cleanser. And I remember one time I did it and I wasn't entirely ready, and I ended up throwing up. And it was not, I threw it because that's what I needed to purge, but it was a little bit scary and intense, and it reminded me, respect the medicine. And so I did the hapé, and I could feel this loving motherly presence settle in, and my body relaxed. And then I see a door, and I hear the spirit of hapé say to me, okay, are you ready? Do you want to see the face of your abuser? You have to walk through the door. You have to say yes. And I was like, no, I do not want to go back into that room. No, I don't want to experience any of this again. I don't want to see any more than I already have. Fuck this. And I, again, freaked out, started crying, hyperventilating, and I called Casey. And Casey talked me down. And then she said, Steph, I think you need to go through the door. I think you need to see what was on the other side, because this has been, it's still tormenting me, and I deserve to be free. And I resisted for a little bit, and then I said, okay, you're right. And Casey had just done a Reiki training. So she was like, how about I'll put an energetic field around you. I'll connect with your field, and I'll help you. I said yes. I hung up the phone, and I actually really did. I could feel her with me, and it manifests in my body really strongly in this one energy center, and I hate it. It's the worst feeling, and I felt that feeling go away. So I was like, okay, I'm not alone. And I felt my people come in as well, and I tried to conjure the door, couldn't really do it. So went back to my hapé, and I did a little bit more, and the door reappeared again. I said yes to opening the door. And the face I saw on the other side was my own. And my ego was all for it. My ego was saying, yep, that's right. You're the abuser. You're the perpetrator. You are all these horrible things. You are disgusting. You disgust me. You are so unworthy. I have so much disdain for you. This is everything you are. You fucking suck. And I'm there like, no, 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 you're wrong. You're wrong. And I'm resisting. And hapé has this amazing ability to just make me feel heavy and relaxed. I guess that's what nicotine, or tobacco rather, does. I became tired, and I think I've been resisting hearing this from my ego for my whole life. And I was so tired, and I said, okay. Listen, like if I'm all of these things, then where do I go from here? And I said that in a cave. I heard the echo. Where do you go from here? What do you do? Where do you go from here? And I decided all I want to do is love myself. So that's where I go from here. I choose to love myself regardless of me actually being an abuser and being all these horrible things. And then it's like I went through my life as this perpetrator, this somebody who abuses and takes advantage of others. And within every moment, it was like this was, by the way, like, this isn't normal, I don't think, with hapé. I have never had these intense visions before with it, although I have intense visions sober as well. But this was the darkest corner I think I've ever found myself within. Darker than ayahuasca was. Ayahuasca was light and dreamy compared to this shit. And so, yeah, I chose to love myself. And then I realized, because I never had a face to my abuser, because I couldn't remember, what I did to cope was I blamed myself. And I don't know how coping mechanisms, sometimes they're great and sometimes they're super toxic and make no sense. And that was how I coped. I pinned myself as the bad guy. And I, for years, told myself all the ways in which I'm unworthy and I'm bad. And after that, the integration, the week after, I realized I had this wonderful community of friends and all these people around me who tell me all the time how wonderful and powerful and capable and beautiful I am. And I've realized for years I haven't believed them. I've told myself, yeah, let it feel good. But it's like I've had this trampoline that bounces off these compliments that I rarely ever feel them in my core. And in fact, what I tell people is, or what I tell myself is, they're just flattering you. They just want you. They just feel bad for you. Or maybe they're afraid of abandonment too. And so they don't really mean it. And so I'm experiencing this in real time and realizing this as well. And I don't know if you've ever had an energy healing before, but it's kind of similar to the feeling you feel after an energy healing. You feel disconnected from the things that were upsetting you the most, like emotionally detached. But sometimes what can happen in time after the initial peace, zen, serenity wears off, I tend to get a little bit frustrated with myself. Because if I allow myself to fall into autopilot mode, then I'm still doing the behaviors. Behaviors doesn't change overnight like emotions kind of do. I'm still doing the behaviors, but I don't feel emotionally attached to them anymore. So I'm kind of sitting there in any destructive behavior thinking, Steph, why are you still doing this? And then I remember, and then I have to bring more compassion to the table for myself. And I know I was explaining this to a loved one, and something they said to me was, But Stephanie, like well, now I'm 27. You're a grown woman. You're good. All the things you do in your life are for the greater good. You're a good person. And I realized, that doesn't matter. I think what matters right now is acknowledging that little Stephanie doesn't believe that. Little Stephanie, for all these years, hasn't believed that I'm worthy of pure connection. She's believed that bad things come because I'm deserving of them, and that I can't trust. I can't trust myself. I can't trust others. And it's been a wild ride, guys. And so I walked into this trip going to Asheville feeling emotionally constipated and energetically pent up, a little bit numb, a little bit frustrated, but also really, really raw. And I remember on my birthday, on Sunday, when we did our ceremony, my intention was to allow what comes up to be as it is. I know, and it's so funny. I'll tell you what happened later, but I was telling Casey, yeah, so many people have so many expectations around their birthday, and they want the day to be perfect, and I just don't want it to be that way. I don't want to expect perfection. I just want to allow myself to be, and I want to honor that. And so we went through the day and little things went wrong, and we laughed it off. We said it's meant to be this way. And it wasn't until the very end of the day, we were driving in the dark through the mountains on a winding road, trying to race back to town before all the restaurants closed, and we hadn't really eaten much food that day. Morale was low. I was feeling low and anxious about not being able to eat dinner, and I remember sitting in the car, and then other things didn't go our way, and so I'm sitting in the car with her, and I look over at her and I said, Casey, I'm gonna freak the fuck out. And she says, do it, just go for it. And I let it all out, and it felt so good. And it felt so good having somebody there and right next to me who gave me full permission to allow my chaos to permeate the environment around us. I'm so grateful that Casey's strong enough for that. That evening when we got home, I felt lighter, and the next morning I felt so much lighter. And it's what I was giggling at earlier is what was upsetting me was I had this vision of what my birthday dinner would be and the desserts that we would get, and none of that happened. We ended up eating dinner in the car, and oh my gosh, and I wanted a dessert. My stomach kind of hurt because I was just feeling yuck inside, and we parked somewhere, and I stepped outside and just had to breathe and had to calm myself down. And turns out I was next to this amazing bakery, and the European bakery in Asheville, which we went back to the next day, and it was full of all my favorite pastries, and I was right there next to it. But I was so caught up in my turmoil that I didn't even notice there was a bakery next to me with all these amazing things. It's funny how our emotions can just completely take control of everything around us. Whether you're angry and you're seeing red or whatever it is, it creates this fish eye lens. And then when the emotions, when you have nothing left to give the emotion, or what I've done in the past, you pack it down with reasoning and all the reasons why you cannot show and you're not safe and you cannot trust to feel these emotions, then you can start to maybe see clearly. Actually, no. You cannot see clearly when you pack down things because they still stay there. And that's, I think, the lesson that I want to bring into this is realizing all these years, I love myself and I have loved myself, but I've realized I've only loved myself as far as I could know myself. And with this crazy fucking portal that was last Sunday, I got to know myself even deeper. And I had to live this lifetime within a short span of a couple of minutes of, well, I guess I've had to live my lifetime up to this point, but I've had to experience it again within ceremony, with the hapé and my meditation, see myself as all these horrible things. And it's helped me realize, and I wonder if maybe I've had to go through this because I have people who come to me who don't like themselves for whatever reason. And I've had to go through this so that I can choose love anyways. So I can sit with this core belief that I am bad, that I am an abuser, no matter how illogical that it is. And I've had to navigate myself through it. So here from this point, where do I go from here? Well, something that Bonnie has really helped me in our FaceTime earlier, she helped me realize she said, I think that you could go a little bit further with how you sit with this terror. And I realized what the terror is little Stephanie kind of coming to terms with what happened and kind of really truly realizing it, and having to let go of myself as the abuser and just kind of come to terms with somebody who I trusted and knew took advantage and did something wrong. As I'm saying this, my hand's creeping up to my face, trying to pick calm down stuff. It's okay. It's okay. But what she said is, yes, you're doing well not running from these emotions. And I think what you can do is to befriend it. And I said, what do you mean? And she goes, well, notice where you feel it. Okay, it's in my solar plexus. Bring your hand there. Close your eyes. Feel the textures and the qualities, the colors, what comes in when you connect with your fear. What does your fear need from you? Can you show, and it's so funny. She told me this, and I tell my clients this all the time when I do big removals from really dense, hard, trapped emotions based on really dense, difficult traumas, is I tell them, align yourself to the vibration of appreciation. This trapped emotion has served you in some form over either this lifetime or another, and it's afraid. It's afraid to lose you. It's afraid to be released, and your nervous system is so used to this. As I was telling Bonnie, I'm so uncomfortable right now in all my relationships, even the great and the easy ones, because the quote unquote normal autopilot track of putting myself down and telling myself all the reasons why I'm unworthy, that's been playing in the back of my head without me really being super cognizant of it, is I'm too aware of it now, and it's not cutting it anymore. I'm not okay with hearing that. Well, I'm hearing it. I'm really listening to it for the first time. And even though it was super toxic, it was my normal. And now my nervous system feels very dysregulated. It's my ego right now saying, when I walk away from friends, this voice says, you said this, you did that, you were way too much, you were not enough, telling me all the ways in which I showed up wrong. And then this voice says, you need to go and thank them. You need to thank this person for being your friend, because if you don't, then they're probably not going to want to be around you anymore. You need to make them believe you're worthy. And it's been this soundtrack in the back of my head for so long that I was completely unaware of it, but I fed it. And now I'm aware, and it's exhausting because I don't want to believe this. I don't want to feel this way about myself. And yet here I am, and it is what it is. And I need to reprogram. I need to shed and reprogram and ask this voice, what do you need from me? Asking my terror when it comes back in, what do you need from me here? and speak to it softly. In one of the very first, maybe it's the second episode of this podcast, I talk about how in order to listen to messages from spirit, from the other side, guides, ancestors, all that good stuff, you need to learn the voice of your ego. You're human, because it can be a little bit, it's a very intelligent little thing. Bonnie said it's our helper, it's our it wants to protect us. And in the ways when we're young, when we don't have other tools, the ways in which it shows up to protect us can be life-saving, can be exactly what we need at that time so we can survive and move on. But then we need to learn, we need to let go of the old ways and create new ways that serve us and connect us to our higher self. And how I said I would speak to my ego, I would speak to her as a little child. I would visualize putting her in a car seat, giving her a blankie, giving her something to snuggle, whatever she needs, and letting her know, like, hey, I know you're afraid. I want you to know how loved and how safe you are. And you're going to sit in the car seat, the state of the art. No one's going to hurt you here. And I'm going to drive the car, because if you drive, we'll crash. As I was saying that, something else was coming in here. Let me see if I can bring it back in. Right. It's another tool that I have right now to help me. And it's as simple as being with nature and connecting to Pachamama, to that capital M mother. Actually, it brings in this story that's it went after this story came in from my guides. Oh, the love that I feel, it brings me to tears. So maybe for the end of this podcast, I'll leave you with this story here. And this story came to me when I was in meditation in my bathtub, in that in and out dream state, asking my guides for help. It always starts with asking for help. So Earth, Mother Earth, or Pachamama, in the Andean cultures, when they refer to Pachamama, they're referring to not only the land, but the realm, the dimension that holds us. So before she became this dimension who holds us, creates our reality, she was a being. And she lived on another planet, in another dimension. And she wanted a child so bad. But her world was very sick and was dying. And in this dimension, beings don't create children through intercourse, through sex in the way that we do. They create it through intention and through other vibrations here. And everyone around her told her, no, you're not meant to have a child. You're not meant to carry on our lineage. We're all going to die here. And she refused to believe this. And she worked hard and she became with child. And as she grew closer and closer to term, her planet grew closer and closer to death and destruction. And it became so bad, she lost almost everyone she knew and loved. And she knew she had to leave. She had to escape. And so she left this planet and she moved through different dimensions. And as she did this, her child was born and her child immediately died. Her journey, which was fueled by hope, became a journey fueled by loss and grief, and she became lost. And she became very tired. I was given the image of a star dying out. And as she was at this portal of death, she met with Source. She met with creators. And they told her, right where you are is a field of infinite possibility. If you agree, We will help transmute your energy so that you can become the mother of these things called plants and animals and these things, other things called humans. And here's the thing, all of them will be your children, and all of them you will love unconditionally. However, these humans, they don't always give the love back. They'll be a little confused, but when they do remember, they will dedicate their entire lives to loving you and honoring you. And here's the other catch here. Your own children will kill each other, and they will return to you. They will return to your soils and return to your dimensions and then leave this dimension, and they might return or they might not. But know that this is going to be a continuous cycle of life and death. But she just said, hold on, full stop. I will have infinite children and I'll get to love them all. I'll get to give them all this love and this hope that I have to give. Absolutely. I'm in. And then I see this explosion, and then I see Earth. And I didn't know that this story was about Earth. It was just a story until I see our planet. And so after they showed me this metaphor, this story, this history, I really, really got to understand the sacrifices that this Earth who holds us and adores us makes every day for us. And it helps me, like when I eat, I transmute my food, and I say thank you mama for your children, and thank you for the suffering that you've both had to go through so that I can thrive and I can live, and this suffering will not be in vain. And yeah, all that good stuff. And when I'm in nature and when I can let my guard down and quiet my mind, that love has been coming in really strong lately. And I'm going to cry because it's not because I'm sad or I'm frustrated or angry. It's because this love is so good. And we all deserve to feel it. And I've deserved to feel it for so long. It's such a bummer, I guess. Me saying that, it's such a bummer that I've had to live my whole life feeling this way and believing this about myself. And little Stephanie is so precious. I have these photos of her in front of me, and she's just such a friggin' cutie. And I hate that she doesn't trust me right now, but I deserve redemption. I deserve her trust. And everyone around me, I deserve to feel worthy and to really feel the love that I'm given by everyone around me. And I want to believe in it, and I choose to. I think when I eventually go and do the frog medicine, I have a lot of work cut out for me. I'm really grateful that I'm going through this right now, because my intention, I decided what my intention will be for this ceremony is to really step into trust. It's I know, like love, it's more than a word. And the word doesn't do it justice. I know it's a feeling that I want to feel and I want to embody and bring everywhere I go with me, and for others to look at me and be like, damn, that girl trusts. She has a lot of trust. Well, thank you so much for listening as far as you have. And I say thank you out of a place of true gratitude, not out of a place of feeling unworthy of your ears and attention, and not feeling like I need to say thank you so that you'll come back. I feel deep, true gratitude for all of you, because I know that if you're here right now, that something about my message, it resonates and aligns with you. And I know that there is a warrior inside of you. Bonnie, today, she had this mug and it said warrior, not worrier. And I love that. And I think we can be both at the same time. And we go through these interweavings and shifts and changes in our identities. And thank God we do. I don't want to stay stagnant. I'm so ready for this new identity to really shift and to be integrated because I'm tired. But I won't give up. Never, ever, ever, ever. And I know you won't either. If this episode resonated with you, please share with somebody. Please allow others around you to know themselves deeper. And remember that those of us who hurt each other and step into the role of the abuser or the role of the victim, it's not because you are worthy of abuse and pain. It's because I think they're craving a deeper connection, and sometimes all they know in finding connection is abuse. And it's amazing and incredible and scary how our mind is able to warp beliefs and events to validate what we want to feel or what we want to believe about ourselves. And I hear this a lot around social media lately, that our mind sucks. It's not true, and it kind of screws us over a lot. But just like the ego, your mind is an ally. You chose to come here to have the mind that you do, to have the ego that you have for a reason. Okay. All right. I'm done rambling here. I love you. I love you. I love you. If you want to work with me, readings, energy healing, all that good stuff, you can reach me at schoolofwhispers.com. If you just want to talk and share your story through your darkness, you can reach out to me on my social medias, which will be in the show notes. I'll be feeling your energy next week.